Hello, DC fans! Today we're going to be unpacking all the new clues from Creature Commandos Episode 6. The focus will be on timeline hints, Easter eggs, and of course clues to the overall mystery. Now there will be spoilers, but as long as you're okay with that, then let's dive right in and see what we can find out. We've entered a new month, so we have a new contest. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment, and you could win a book or a steelbook. Best of luck. And I'll announce our December winners in the next video. Also, we have a membership option with lots of cool perks, so you might check it out in case you're interested. All right, so I'm going to start off with all the flashbacks from Dr. Phosphorus' origin, and we get this really nice view of Gotham City. It's basically our first view of Gotham City in the DCU. Can't wait to see more. All right, so we see that Dr. Phosphorus' real name is Alex Sartorius, which is right out of the comics. In fact, his first appearance was in Batman Detective Comics number 469, all those years ago. And yeah, he is definitely a main Batman villain. So we see that his research on cancer is being given to the country Baella, which of course was what he had been fearing all along. That country does appear in the comics, and in fact was featured in the Justice League run that I'm pretty sure Gunn is pulling a lot from for his inspiration in Superman. Of course, Guy Gardner with a bowl cut is a big indicator of that. And we see that Rupert Thorne is the one that causes Dr. Phosphorus' transformation. Of course, that's right out of the comics because Rupert Thorne was heavily involved in Dr. Phosphorus' origin. And I love that he is voice acted by someone Gunn has used before in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, one example. And boy, isn't it interesting how much the body structure of Rupert Thorne in the episode is similar to the voice actor himself. I love that. I mean, they almost look like clones of each other. Too funny. All right, so we definitely get to feel every bit of pain that Alex experiences during the transformation. That was just gut-wrenching. Ah, poor dude. Then finally, when it's all done and he exits the lab, we do see this Easter egg, confirming it's in his own lab, Sartorius Labs, where this all went down. Then, as he's going to get his revenge, he runs across this guard reading meta sleaze. I almost wish I didn't have to bring this up, but number one, it uses the term meta, which we'll talk more about in a second, but also on the left, that might be Star Sapphire. I mean, the headpiece is totally different. She's got a cape on, and of course, she's wearing a lot less clothes, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Is that supposed to be Star Sapphire, or is it just some random meta person? Then also, while he's getting his revenge, Dr. Phosphorus kills a dude in the grocery store who is buying Crispy Bones cereal. Now, I don't know whether that is supposed to be like an homage to Dino Pebbles. I mean, you kind of got a dinosaur, you got bones, etc. I don't know whether that's meant to mean something, but if it is, Dino Pebbles did come out in the early 90s, which could be placing this flashback in the early 90s, but I don't think that works. That's too far in the past. We'll talk more about that when Batman shows up in just a moment, actually. Then we see that Dr. Phosphorus takes over Rupert Thorne's crime organization. Everything that was his is now mine, says Dr. Phosphorus, and he becomes the coolest crime boss ever. I mean, the dude has style. I love the finger pistols that then turn into real guns. I mean, definitely this episode did not shy away from the fact that Dr. Phosphorus is a villain. He's ultimately a likable villain by the time of Creature Commandos, but he is a villain at this point. We see him exiting the Ice Lounge, which do you think they were intentionally trying to make it different than the Iceberg Lounge in the comics where the Penguin always hung out? I mean, I'm wondering if because we have a live-action Penguin show that obviously is not part of the DCU, is that why they changed the name like intentionally to say this isn't the same thing as the live-action show? Let me know your thoughts on that, but it's just too strange that they changed it so intentionally. All right, so then we have the massive appearance by Batman, and I do mean massive because dude is thick. I mean, look particularly at his waist, not just his upper body, even his waist. He is enormous. Now, obviously, he could be wearing body armor, and that's making him look so big, just like Ben Affleck did. But still, he's huge. So is that Gunn's way of trying to say it's absolutely not Robert Pattinson underneath that suit? Because, I mean, there's a big difference there, right? Plus, this is a flashback, which even if it's not in the 90s, it's at least, 4, 5, 6 years ago? So they're trying to say, which Gunn I think has said publicly, that Batman is older in the DCU. So, I don't know. Tell me your thoughts. Is this making it very difficult for Pattinson to ultimately be the Batman? I also think this is interesting. Remember, in Circe's vision, we saw, the future, and there's dead Batman. I mean, he does look a little different than here. So obviously some time has gone by. Maybe he thins out a bit, or maybe he's just a swole under that outfit. But I'm really curious to know how much time has transpired between these two images. Hopefully we'll learn at some point where this all fits in the DCU timeline. All right, so then we move to present day, which picks up right after the last episode with all the commandos on the run. And in fact, Dr. Phosphorus was hiding in this trash bin and is now brushing off the trash. But here's what's so interesting. He's literally humming the main theme of the show, which I didn't even know was a real song. I assumed it was something they created for the show. No, it's actually a song written years ago called Moliendo Cafe. And if you look up the meaning of the song, the lyrics tell of someone who, while grinding coffee at night, feels frustrated having to work instead of having a love life. So basically, the grind, pun intended, of his work is keeping him from having a real life, from enjoying love and fun. Instead, he's working all the time. So is that something Gunn's trying to tell us about the characters? It is the theme song of the show. Is he trying to say that all of them basically are work, 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 and don't have a life? Of course, they're in prison, so it's kind of hard to have a life in prison. But I'm just trying to decide if Gunn's trying to make a point here, because it's really interesting that one of the characters was humming the theme song. Okay, so now Dr. Phosphorus, who's on the run, ends up in this house with this sweet little girl, and I thought he was going to kill her. In fact, I think he planned on killing her for a while. But the fact that she literally refers to him as the title of the episode, which translates to Buddy Skeleton, I think he finally softened and remembered who he used to be, which explains his transition, to this more, caring person, although he still loves to kill people. That's for sure. He loves to kill people. He is a fascinating character. No doubt about that. All right, so then we move on to the bride and Nina, who have ended up in a brothel, and the madam of the brothel has a very, very familiar voice. Impossible not to recognize her as the actress that played Nadia Maroney in The Penguin. And I thought that was fascinating. Here we have earlier where they changed the Iceberg Lounge to the Ice Lounge to kind of distance themselves from the Penguin, and yet they bring in one of the most famous from a voice standpoint actresses in that show to play the madam. Isn't that wild? So they're reminding you about the Penguin while they're also distancing themselves from the Penguin. But either way, love to have her back. She's a fantastic actress. We also find out that Scattergories does exist in the DCU when Nina mentions it, so very cool. That's official. And then I thought this was really significant. So we get a meta-human name drop. So these jerks, these brothers that come into the brothel, they are definitely original characters to this episode. I couldn't find them anywhere in the comics, but the madam refers to them as metahuman. So that's interesting. That's the first time in the series that term has been used. And remember, Gunn said nothing is canon in the DCU until an official property, like Creature Commandos, references it. So this is now officially telling us that Gunn is sticking with the metahuman term. And I think that was smart. No reason to go away from it, but it's just significant. Each time something like this gets mentioned, it turns into DCU canon. All right, so then we move to Weasel, who proves that, yes, even an angry feral wolf still likes to play fetch. Too fun. I thought that was really, really clever. But this dream that Weasel has could become a problem, because he dreams of this sweet little girl, which you remember from his flashback that got killed, and she reminds him of the princess, who apparently wants to play fetch. So I am wondering if Weasel is going to end up trying to protect the princess while the others are trying to assassinate her. In fact, if we look at this from the scenes for next week, we see Weasel and Dr. Phosphorus in a big fight. And man, that's probably not going to turn out well for Weasel. I am really worried Weasel may get killed in the series. Let me know your thoughts on that. That would be wild if both of Sean Gunn's characters, G.I. Robot and Weasel, get killed in the series. Poor Sean Gunn, right? Crazy. All right, so then we get one of Gunn's famous slow walk scenes. Of course, he had one of these in every one of the Guardians movies. And then we get this clever reference to the Nightmare Before Christmas movie when the bride refers to Phosphorus as Jack Skellington. Of course, that's the main character from Nightmare Before Christmas. Then we have to mention Frankenstein. Kills those people on the airplane randomly. The dude is just so cruel, and yet then he can be so polite and so nice. I love how David Harbour is handling this character. And then we have to talk about Rick Flag and his situation. Oh man, dude got beaten within an inch of his life and is at death's door, basically. This is interesting. Waller name drops Argus to the doctor, and that just shows that Argus is a well-known organization. Obviously, Task Force M is a secret, but not Argus. And then we get some epic Easter eggs as Economos is trying to figure out who exactly attacked Rick Flag. He asks, is it a reptiloid, which makes you think of Killer Croc, amphibious, like Nina, simian, like Gorilla Grodd, and then my favorite, of course, is mite. He brings up a mite, as in like Batmite. And if there was any doubt, that now canonizes for certain this line from Peacemaker, where Peacemaker asks, who's Batmite? And Economos says, he's a 2-foot-tall interdimensional imp who stands Batman. Too funny. So yes, Batmite is officially part of the DCU, and I am so down for it. All right, so then this is kind of funny, because it looks like Waller actually cares about Rick Flag, and his health, because she says, you're going to make it. You're going to make it. But why does she want him to make it? Pretty much just to get information out of him. Typical Waller, right? Once a Waller, always a Waller. She hasn't changed. Anyway, she says, we need to know what happened. How does this tie into everything? Of course, that's the question we're all asking, right? How does all of this tie together? But this is fascinating. She says, who wanted you dead? Okay, so I think that if she was the one that hired Clayface to impersonate that doctor, she would have known that Rick Flag got beat up by him. She would have known what happened. I mean, if nothing else, Clayface would have called her and told her, probably. So I don't think she has anything to do with Clayface pretending to be that doctor, which leaves us back trying to figure out, how does this all tie together, like she said. I think it's interesting in the scenes from next week, they're starting to question Circe's visions, because Economos says if Circe isn't telling the truth, we're starting a war for no reason. Well, why are they now starting to doubt that she was telling the truth? Can't wait to find that out. But we got to theorize a bit, right? So I'm going to go back to this pivotal scene. I think this is the most important scene probably in the entire show in trying to piece this together. So we have all the actors here, right? We have Circe, who is either telling the truth and truly believes there is a vision about the future, or maybe she's lying. We have the doctor, who I think is Clayface at this point, doing a better job of being serious. I know when he was in the school, he was being a real jerk and flirting with all those girls, but that's because he was off hours, just having fun. Here he's doing his job. I think he's trying to convince Waller to believe Circe, and of course Waller's the one who basically is declaring World War III herself by attacking the princess to have her killed. So Waller's basically bringing about the vision by her actions. So I threw out last week that maybe Lex Luthor's behind all of this. There's no reason to believe that from the episodes. I'm more guessing it because I think that would be a cool way for Gunn to get us excited about the Superman movie and to really tie things together. But there is another potential person who's behind all this. Isn't it suspicious that Gorilla Grodd just shows up randomly in that vision, hanging out with the princess, and yet he's never been mentioned other than that? And keep in mind that Grodd has mental powers, so he could potentially be putting false visions in Circe's mind. And I want to give huge credit to Jeremy Morris 345, who suggested this very idea on my last video. Why would Grodd be in the vision, he says, and he has telepathic powers, so he could easily be behind this. So I like that idea. I mean, there is clearly a big bad behind all of this. We don't know who, but Gorilla Grodd being already seen in the series would make sense as the big bad. Or maybe it's someone else. I would still love the idea of Lex being the big bad, but tell me your thoughts. Who is behind all of this? All right, so I always like to mention the timeline. I don't think we got any new clues, so this is everything I've pieced together from what we've gotten so far. I do always get asked, though, why am I not including Blue Beetle in here? And that's a good question, but the main reason I'm doing that is because Gunn himself said that Blue Beetle is the first character in the DCU, but Superman is the first movie, which if you kind of translate that, he's saying the Blue Beetle movie isn't canon. But I hope he makes it canon eventually. It was a great movie. It fits perfectly. And speaking of Superman, we don't know much about it, but if you saw my final trailer video, because I did 3 on the trailer, there was so much to talk about, but it looks like maybe there's hints that the movie is taking place in May of 2025. Very hard to guess at this point, but watch the video if you haven't seen it. It may be when it's happening. But I'm really hoping by the end of Creature Commandos, i.e. next week, that they tie this together and we know the amount of time between Creature Commandos and Superman, and we can start to really build out the timeline. All right, so now we wait, in fact, for that season finale next week. I cannot wait. Please leave me your thoughts on all of this, the timeline, the big bad, etc. You know I love to read and respond to all of them. And don't forget, January contest, be a subscriber, leave a comment, win a book or a steelbook. And there's that membership option in case you're interested in that. And of course, we have a Discord. Here we are in the Creature Commandos spoiler section, talking about the recent episode, trying to figure it all out, trying to figure out all the Easter eggs and how it all ties together. We have 1,900 members across the globe, conversations 24/7, and I will leave a pinned comment so you can be part of it. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we will all eagerly await the next episode of Creature Commandos.